Welcome back to Diet Debunk here at Hippocrates Health Institute. I am once again joined by world-renowned health expert, Dr. Brian Clement here at Hippocrates, and we also have a special guest today with us, Elle Macpherson, world-renowned model, and we are just so happy to have her here, drinking the wheatgrass, eating the sprouts with us, and also going to be sharing some with us about diets and models and the experience that some people will go through. And you know, we cover lots of different kinds of diets here on this program, so we're really interested to hear more from her about this. And you know, to hand it off, Brian, what questions do you have right from the start?
Well, it's nice to have Elle with us, and you know, one of the things that we've had in our culture, in our society, from the beginning of time, is that the model, the actress, the actor, are the image of what we should all aspire to. And so here you are, a little girl growing up in Australia, and tell us that story.
Oh gosh, have you got to it out? I'm Australian, and I grew up. I didn't want to be a model. Actually, I wanted to go to law school. My stepfather was a lawyer, and I actually applied to law school, and then I needed money to put myself through school. So a friend of mine suggested I start modeling, and so I did. And you know, it was really interesting because I never had this concept of, you know, glorifying beauty, or I was not really interested in fashion magazines or cinema, because in Australia we lived a pretty rural life and I wasn't exposed to it. But I was interested in being financially independent, and I was interested in going to law school. And I had to move out of my parents' home, and so, you know, I had jobs. I worked from the time I was 13 years old. I worked in a pharmacy, and then I worked as a waitress, so I had two jobs growing up, and I paid rent at home, and then I decided to give this modeling thing a go, because I heard that you could make some good money, and I got an opportunity to move to America and pursue it, and it was really it was sort of an interesting journey, because it allowed me to explore the world. But then, of course, when you're a model, you have to have a certain type of physique. And, you know, I would see a lot of girls in the business that were basically not eating. And I was this strong, athletic, you know, sporty girl. I got up at 5 o'clock every morning and went swimming training from the time I was 10 years old. So I was always very athletic and lean. And, you know, it was interesting, in Australia, we have this sort of diet that you probably have in Middle America, which is like meat and potatoes. That's the average diet in Australia. But we didn't. We actually, my mom, you know, brought us up with a lot of vegetables and fish. And mainly because meat was so expensive in Australia. Really, it was actually, you know, it was financially not possible to be eating meat the way, thank goodness, because my taste buds were, you know, acclimatized to eating a reasonably healthy diet. But I'm an exception, you know. Most Australians grow up with sort of like the English, two vegetables and meat and potatoes.
It's so.
Yeah.
So here you are, you're on your way potentially to law school. Somebody says to make money to go to law school, you should be a model.
Yeah.
And what was your first modeling job?
Oh, my first modeling job was in Australia. The one that I was most recognized, the first one that really gave me a name for myself, happened pretty quickly in Australia, and it was a Tab commercial. It was Tab Cola.
Oh, Tab Cola, remember that, yes.
So, and I'm the girl, so this girl walks along, red bathing suit, bikini, walks along, and the guy looks at the girl, and then the girlfriend pours a bucket of water over him. And the story is Tab Cola, it's a beautiful drink. I can still hear the Tab Cola for beautiful people.
Isn't that funny?
So Tab Cola for beautiful people, isn't that irony? Isn't that ironic?
It is. Well, it's not so beautiful when you really understand what's in it.
Exactly.
So here we are, you come to the United States. How old were you then?
I was about 18, 17,
Wow.
18. Wow. Yeah.
That must have been a stunner for you.
Well, I arrived in New York City in the middle of winter from the middle of summer in Australia. I didn't know how to dress. I had $500 in my pocket and a return ticket. And I just was scared out of my wits, thinking I was going to get mugged. But the house I was staying I was staying actually living with one of my bookers at the time. She lived opposite a police station on 21st Street.
Oh.
So between 2nd and 3rd. So I felt sort of safe that I was there. But it was really interesting. I mean, I don't even know how I sort of evolved while I was in New York. I just put one foot in front of the other and you know, made heartfelt decisions. And being Australian, it's really about just giving it a go. And that's what I did. I had opportunities, and you know, I used my inner heart as a compass, you know, my heart as a compass, and made decisions. And if it felt right, I did it. And if it didn't feel right, I didn't do it. And one thing led to another, and built a career. And it's been now 40 years.
Wow, it's amazing. You don't even look 40. So honest to God. So, you know, the thing is about Americans, we just love accents. And my wife is Swedish, as you know. And so you sort of are favored, but at the same point, this is a totally different culture than what you grew up on the countryside of Australia.
On the beach, suburbia on the beach, in Australia. So it's very different. And I think that we had, generally Australians are a pretty healthy nation. I mean, not now, because our rate of our rate of obesity is second to it's really growing. And I think it's because there's so much genetic modification in our foods, and I don't think people are eating, you know, the way they used to eat. And there's so much more, you know, fast food, and it's a shame. And I don't think we're educated. I mean, I was educated just from, you know, my mom, but she was really old-fashioned. She was like, you don't eat much, it's not good for you. Yes. I think it was because we didn't have that much to eat, but, and you know, make sure that you eat clean. I mean, that was her thing. And her thing was, if it's white, don't eat it.
Oh, that's a blessing.
And and that was pretty much the way we were grown up. I used to go to my friend's house, and I loved it because they served bread and butter at the table. And my mother would never do that. She's like, no, that's sandwiches, that's for school lunches, that's it. Not at the dinner table.
I can relate. My parents are very much the same. It was like, and we didn't have white bread, and I would go over to a friend's house who had white bread, and I would just like try to eat all of it if I could, because it was like something I wasn't allowed to have. You know,
it's the sugar, I guess, that we love.
The simple carbohydrates, and just as a kid too, I think it's the allure of something. It's like, oh, you haven't had this before; it's off limits, and then you get to try some of it. So as a young woman in New York City, and now you're surrounded by an environment that is different from Australia, I'm sure there was more fast food options, more I mean, it's New York. So how did you start kind of your diet approach when you moved there?
Well, you know, it's really interesting because I think, you know, well, it's not I think, I know when I first moved there, I was shocked at the portions of the meals. I was like, how like if it would come out, it would be like this big, and these, you know, drinks that were so high. I was like, how do people eat that much? Yeah. It was really astonishing. But, you know, as a model, the basic thing is, and like anybody who's working on the camera, and I probably look like 20 pounds heavier on this camera now. But you learn that in order to look your best on the camera, basically, you need to be 10 pounds under weight, or under what people would say. So, you know, what you see in the real life will look 10 times heavier on camera. Right. So I think we spent most of our young modeling years trying to give back the camera the 10 pounds it was trying to give us. No, you can have it. And so we, you know, sport was really important. Fitness was important. I'd never been to a gym until I moved to New York. Okay. Because in Australia, you went surfing, you went to the beach, you went for a run, you had an active lifestyle. And when I moved to New York, I started going to the gym. And then when I started going to the gym, I started watching what other people were eating and how they were managing their diet. And I thought I was into wellness. But it was really just fitness. It was like calories in, you know, carbohydrates and exercise, and that's all you really did. And you made sure that you were strong. I mean, I was known for having an athletic sort of Amazonian kind of body, and so I worked quite diligently at making sure that I was strong. But I didn't really understand the importance of nutrition.
Well, you certainly do now, that's for sure. It's very few people in the profession of modeling that have a 40-year career, and I'm sure that Elle's going to have another 40 years because of what she's going to tell you in the next segment. We're going to be right back.
Hello everybody, my name's Nurse Tom. I'm a medical supervisor here at the Hippocrates Health Institute, and I was actually once a client myself. It helped me to recover from stage 4 cancer, and now I've been here for over 9 years, and one of the things we use are some of the great supplements of the Life Give line here. These are raw, organic, high quality nutrients that really help people to live at a more optimal level, and we've had great results with them.
B12 Magnified. B12 Magnified is sourced from both a soil-based bacteria, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and blue-green algae. Vitamin B12 supports the brain, nerve cells, and myelin sheaths that protect nerves. It is vital to multiple metabolic functions, including enzyme production, DNA synthesis, and maintenance of healthy cardiovascular and gastrointestinal systems. It supports psychological function and can improve memory loss, poor concentration, and negative moods. Vitamin B12 plays a key role in the formation of red blood cells by increasing iron levels of the hemoglobin, ensuring adequate oxygen is available for transport throughout the body, and producing energy. Life Give. Healing our world.
Welcome back to Diet Debunk. Now, we have a few more questions as it relates to models and diets, and we just learned how Elle came over to New York City from Australia, started her modeling career there, and shared a little bit about how she started here. But what I'm really curious about, Elle, is the other models that you worked with. Luckily, you had a good grounding in terms of your upbringing, your knowledge base, but what did you see in terms of how people manage diets, and what were people recommended? Were there nutritionists? Were there people guiding you, or was everyone up to their own doing?
Yeah, it's a really interesting business, and a lot of people sort of see young models as being taken advantage of because they're taken out of school and they just work, and often girls are supporting their whole family. Wow. And so it's it could be considered child labor in the sense that many girls start quite young, 16, 17, 18. And it was difficult for me to watch people because, look, this is 1980, right? So in the 80s, drugs were rife. And so really a lot of the industry was very free as far as drugs were concerned. So girls would have, things to get you up in the morning. I never did, and not till much later, but get you up in the mornings, things to help you go to sleep, things to curb your diet, your eating habits. So I think a lot of girls resorted to some kind of chemical or medicinal way of managing their energy and their weight. I didn't see a lot. We were never given any kind of support as to how to eat or what to eat or what not to eat. We were just
You had managers rather than really personal assistants or guides.
Yeah, and I think the industry in itself doesn't really, it's a little bit like being a jockey. A lot of people have very stereotypical ideas about models, but if you look at a jockey, there is a body type that works for a jockey. You can't be a 6'5" jockey, and it's just not going to work.
Not a successful one, though.
It's not going to work, right? So, and there's no prejudice. It's just that is the sort of physicality that's required for that particular sport, and modeling is the same. There's a certain physiognomy that lends itself to the industry, but wonderfully speaking, today. I mean, we have a huge variety of what is successful. You have short girls and tall girls, and we have girls that are much heavier.
Full body.
Yeah, and doing very well. And I mean, you just need to look at the Kardashians as a sort of body type that, you know, most of the world looks at as being an attractive body type, whether it's healthy or not healthy. But at least, you know, there is a difference between, you know, there is a sort of wholesomeness to that type of body as to, you know, what I saw when I was growing up.
A lot of the actresses and models who have been through Hippocrates told me that they were encouraged to take amphetamines by their doctors, and they were referred to those particular doctors by managers. Do you see any of that?
Well, I don't know where everybody got their stash, but everybody had it. And, not everybody, that's a sweeping comment. But I was also, I think it's also the kind of people that I hung out with and the life that I was living I wasn't in the thick of the details. But I do know that being healthy wasn't necessarily a priority.
Well, you turned out to be healthy no matter what. So now, here time goes on. You're living in Europe. Tell us how you popped over there.
I got married when I was quite young, in 1985, 86.
So you were in your early 20s.
Yeah, I was 21, or I think I was 21. And my husband was French. And so we would live between Paris and New York. And there I learned to eat, and I learned to cook, and I learned to really enjoy life. And it was wonderful because what I realized is when I was living in France, I could eat anything. And we were cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was, you know, if you were not cooking, you were talking about what you were going to cook. And if you were not cooking and talking about what you were going to cook, you were going to the markets to get your food, or you were going to, you know, the fromagerie, you know, to pick up your cheeses or whatever you were getting. So we ate so well, and I was so happy living when I was in Paris. And it didn't, you know, I didn't put on weight, and actually I think I was so well balanced. My diet was so well balanced because I was really well nourished, because the quality of the food there was very different from the quality of the food in America. And everything tasted amazing, and I had really, really great introductions to diet, really, because the French know how to eat.
Absolutely.
I mean, they know how to cook, but they also know how to find the best ingredients, and you know, just even their food combining. They're just so intelligent about their food. So I learned a lot from that. And then fast forward, I get divorced, and and then I have my children. So that brought a whole new perspective to nutrition and to health and wellness. And I had my sons late. I had a boy. I had my first son when I was 35, my second when I was 40.
Oh yeah.
So I'd had a long time of messing about before but as I was maturing, my understanding of wellness was evolving, and as I was exposed to more things, and as I was navigating my own maturing process from, you know, being a young girl to being a 35-year-old woman, getting prepared to have a baby, having a baby, breastfeeding, the space in between two children.
It's a beautiful time.
That's where my wellness journey really started to evolve, because I started to really, first of all, be in awe of the body and see what it can do. But
Isn't it magic when you think about that?
It's incredible.
It comes from invisible to a human being that comes out of you. I mean, it's you know, we don't believe in magic. That's magic.
Oh my gosh! And then you want to feed your body well, because you're making another human being inside you.
You're responsible for more than just yourself.
Yeah, and that's the wonderful thing. That's where the unconditional love starts.
That's ultimately why we're here.
Yeah.
That's everything.
For sure.
So you did this to such a point where you're helping other people now do this.
Well, yeah, it's been an interesting journey for me. So moving from pregnancy, 2 pregnancies post, breastfeeding, I'm turning 50. And no,
Wait a minute. She
no,
has
no,
to
no,
say that.
no, no. I was turning 50 6 years ago.
What?
So I go.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're telling us here that you're 56 years old.
I'm 56, nearly 57 years
Wow.
old.
That's
But
impossible.
I
Wait a
feel
minute.
I don't
That's
know what the light's
impossible.
like.
That's impossible.
Healthy life. Healthy
Yeah.
life, happy wife.
But healthy head too. It's not just
healthy
healthy.
heart.
Healthy
It's actually
heart,
a
yes.
healthy heart
Right.
and loving heart. But by the time I turned 50, I was doing the same things I'd been doing, diet-wise, exercise-wise, and perspective-wise, as I was doing in my 20s, and it wasn't working anymore. It was like genetics can get you so far, and having a good, healthy lifestyle can get you so far. But I needed to understand more about my how my body worked, and particularly during this phase. So I did a lot of research. I'm a big researcher, and I found this wonderful doctor on Harley Street in London called
yes.
Dr. Laubscher.
Oh yes.
And she's a PhD in nutrition, and I took her. You mentioned synthetic vitamins yesterday. I took her and I said, I'm taking all these vitamins, and I still feel terrible. My skin's bad, my hair's bad, my heart. I don't want to get up in the mornings. I can't sleep at night. I don't feel inspired. I don't understand what's wrong. And she looked at the vitamins, and first of all, she said, well, first of all, these are synthetic, so your body's not recognizing them. And, and I said, well, what do I do? And she said, well, it's not hard. We're going to move to a plant-based diet. And we're going to, she talked to me about acidity and inflammation, and how inflammation was the root cause of all disease, and how you could actually create an alkaline body by eating oxygenated foods and plants and greens, and she gave me a program that was very simple to follow, and I started following this program, and within 3 weeks my whole life changed. I couldn't believe.
We see this year after year here. I mean, so just be brave enough to make that first step.
It really is about making that first step, having the courage to make that first step. And for me, it was just putting my hand up and going, I need help. And it was that simple. It brings tears to my eyes, because it really was life-changing. And I didn't want to admit that I needed help, because I thought I knew it all, or I felt like I'd been getting so much advice from so many different people, and I should know by now, and why don't I know how to look after myself properly? I feel like I do. But it was a really interesting and wonderful experience to meet her, and then she started me on my own sort of journey into plant-based diet, and then she started giving me some pills that I would take, and then after 3 weeks and seeing this turnaround, I said, listen, this is all great, but it's too complicated. I want just one. Can you put everything into one product? And I just want to take one product, because this is too
Confusing. Yeah.
confusing. And she did, and she made this, which is the hero product of our business, Wellco, the Super Elixir. It's 50 ingredients, or 47 ingredients, I think, and it's 2 teaspoons. You take 2 teaspoons in water, and it's a multivitamin, mineral, probiotic, prebiotic, the whole thing. And that was the foundation of the business. It's carefully combined. All the ingredients are very carefully combined, so they amplify the strength of each other. And you guys are very much that mentality here and philosophy here of stacking your treatments, and combining things to lift the whole overall well-being of the body, and that's what I've experienced here.
Yeah.
So if you have one thing to tell people listening around the world about life today in the 21st century, being a mother, being a professional, being in front of the camera, how many cameras do you think you've been in front of your whole life?
Oh my gosh,
Probably thousands, right? Tens of thousands.
I don't know. I've never think of it that way,
No.
but yeah.
Think about that. So what do you have to tell people? You're a voice of reason in a world that's not so reasonable now.
Gosh, the first thing the most important thing I believe is to follow your heart. So whatever choices you make in this world, they need to be really coming from your heart. And when you do that, your heart is a fantastic compass. It will show you the way. And in my case, I realized that I needed to really start to look after myself in a more holistic way, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And I was not just this weight on the scales, and I was not just a physical being, but I was a spiritual and emotional being. And so I needed to attend to that as much as I attend to the physicality of my humanness. And if you can, address your physical, emotional, and spiritual life as well as your nutrition, and follow your heart, then love, laughter, clean water, fresh air.
And love is the most important part. And we'd love to have you with us today. And it's nice to be with authentic people speaking from their heart.
Thank you.
And we appreciate sharing with our people all over the world.
Thank you so much.
Till next week.
This is Diet Debunked.